So this week is teaching week 7, so we have to, in the lecture we talked about climate change, okay? And the number of students were not so many in the lecture because of your examination, I believe, okay? That was the main factor. So anyway, I believe that you had the chance to review lecture materials, okay? Which is important. Okay? So now I will ask you some questions. Good. Climate change. So now just warm up questions, all right? First one is, what are some current environmental problems today? Global warming, right? Global warming is one of the main ones, right? So everyone talks about it. Issues, including all presidents of very strong countries. Okay, they're talking about the global warming. It's a big problem for the humanity. Okay, good. And how are these environmental issues different from the past? If you compare the situation of today with the past, is it same or it's a bit different? Is it a little different or it's very
If you take global warming itself, like it used to exist also before, like for example, the changes, like dramatic changes in global temperature, it also existed. Like example is ice age, for example. It also happened. Like you cannot always link this to the human activity. But regarding other issues like air pollution, for example, there's other pollution problems, and for example, waste itself, like they are dumping the waste into oceans. This is the real problem, and which actually didn't exist before.
Okay. So which means today it's very different, right?
Yeah.
Regarding ice age, okay, because our scientists, okay, they make that type of arguments that personally, I'm not 100% sure that ice age used to exist or not. So if we consider that a few centuries before and today, it is very different. Indeed, the temperature is also different.
Now, it's also like one more argument regarding this global warming. They say always like link the global warming to CO2. This level, high level of CO2. But the research has been done in this area as well, and they found out that before, like some 1,000 years ago, the level of CO2 was even double, triple more higher, but still, like there was not such a dramatic change in global temperature. So it always cannot be linked to human activity as well.
Okay, good. It can't be just nature itself that makes it. Okay, good. And how do environmental problems come into existence? That global warming that we have, all of that pollution, so how did it start? And
Negligence of human activity.
Pardon?
Negligence of humans in terms of like while acting. Like they neglect and didn't expect such a consequence.
Okay. What about global warming? So regarding global warming, right, we made that argument that that pollutants that makes that global temperature increase, it is greenhouse gas emissions, right? So we said we are emitting, so mostly people. Of course, nature itself, it emits those gases too, okay? While we emitting more and more, then we said that it makes that thermal blanket, right? Thermal blanket, which means that the troposphere, it keeps that, all of that gas over our heads. Okay, which means it is able to keep heat, the temperature to keep warm. So because of that effect, now our temperature is a bit higher compared to the past. Okay. And it causes a lot of problems. Okay, good. And what causes environmental problems? Actually, what kind of, factors? Human activities, and how humans are making this?
Industries, heavy industries.
Yes. So heavy industries, okay.
Yeah, and progress that we are making, everything that we are kind of paying also the price for the environment as well. We are progressing, but on the other hand, the environment is displacing.
Okay, we are sacrificing for the progress our environment. Okay, when we talk about that one, okay, main factors are those greenhouse pollutants, okay, which are polluting the environment. Okay, polluting the environment. Good. what are some possible ways to avoid environmental issues? How can we avoid it? How can we avoid it?
First of all, stop progress.
Okay, yes, mitigating it, all of those emissions. Good. Reduce emission. This is it, one.
Yeah,
okay.
but still, like, there was also proposal, like, just this reduction of, like, release of the greenhouse gas, we cannot avoid environmental problem. Let's say, solve this problem. We can just have, like, keep it flat, but not solve totally.
Okay, good. Right? Adaptation means, we have to adapt for the changes. I'm saying now, how can we avoid those problems? Or reduce those problems?
Other resources like solar power or
okay, we can replace those not eco-friendly facilities with eco-friendly technologies. Good? Yes, that's true. Or just rather than cutting trees, okay, natural, that we have nature itself that is able to avoid those problems, but rather than planting trees, we are cutting them. Okay, good. And what is the role of government in dealing with this issue? Does government play any role?
Plays a key role.
It plays key role, right? Okay. Without government intervention, it's nearly impossible, okay, to fight or to go against this kind of problems. Okay. It is government because as an individual, it's too difficult to convince people. But because if government implements certain policies, they're able to not only convince it, they can just request from the nation to do it. Otherwise, they will issue certain type of punishment, right? Good. And what about as individuals, what can we do to reduce that climate change issue?
Like the first problem, like the simple example is our university as well. Like this is the for paper recycling.
Recycling, yes, that's.
And also in the outside they're separating the waste.
Yes, that's very nice thing. Okay, our universities they started implementing such a thing from this year, right? Which is a good thing. And in most of the developed countries, if you help to recycle your garbage that you produce, okay, you are even paid.
Yeah, in one country in Europe, I don't remember, Greece or somewhere, they're in the place where in the ticket office, they bring the plastic, and for some amount of plastic, they get paid for some amount of money.
And in some of the European countries, let's say if you buy that water, for example, the drinking water with plastic bottle, and they will charge you, I don't know, extra money, right? After drinking, if you just again throw it to that place, they will give you that money back. Okay, that extra. Okay, so now let's divide you in two groups. Okay, group A, group B. Now we have two groups. Okay. So now you should explain how important is greenhouse gas. Okay, so carbon dioxide, chlorofluorocarbon, methane, and many other types, okay, which we call global pollutants, okay? So group A, now you should make arguments that it is good for the economy and the society, all right? And now you should make arguments that it is not good, okay? It is not good. Maybe 1 minute is more than sufficient. Please make it fast. Let's discuss. Why is it? How is it how can it be beneficial, and how can it be harmful?
productivity will be decreased.
Okay, let's start from group B, okay, whose argument is it's harmful to the society and to the economy. So what's your argument? Group B. Yep.
Okay, like the greenhouse gas are very harmful to the society and the economy. Let's take the society first. Greenhouse gas causes some health issues.
Okay.
For example, respiratory diseases, because the air will be polluted, and of course this causes serious issues. And even like because of the climate change and so on, like the number of people who are infected by like skin cancer has also increased. It's also because of this problem. And what about the economy? Most people think that it's good for the economy. Why? Because the heavy industries pay the tax, but on the other hand, they do not know whether this amount of tax incurs or let's say is enough to be paid for the health care of the society or other like for example some cleaning issues or some recycling process, everything like so it's both harmful in terms of society, in terms of health. The main argument and in the economy is that the expenditure, government expenditure is high, too high to solve this problem.
Okay, especially it can be very, very high in the future. Okay. Good, thank you. Any additions? Give me the conclusion. Okay, good. What about group A? How is it beneficial? What's your argument?
Technologies will curb greenhouse gas, and if there is no greenhouse gas, they cannot sell their technology.
Okay, for some economies, yes, okay, that's true. For some economies, of course it's beneficial. For example, we have so many types of technologies which are, produced just for the sake of cleaning the air. Humidifiers, okay, air cleaners, so those manufacturers are really benefiting from this pollution in the air, okay, or filters of water, okay, it's good for them. But as a whole, for the nation, it's actually not good, right? As a whole, okay, good. So one benefit you may consider about greenhouse gas, nature itself emits those gases itself, okay, not humans, nature itself. So now we are living in that, friendly environment, okay, because of this gas. It's one reason. If we don't, let's say the level of greenhouse gas is zero on the surface of the Earth, the temperature that on average we may have less than zero, below zero.
The Earth will be uninhabitable.
Okay, so which means that we will not be able to live on this planet if we don't have that gas. That's the main factor. Because we still need it, but the problem is if it's more than the norm. That's the problem. Okay, now we are polluting too much, which causes a lot of problems. Good. So again, let's divide it again for two, group A, group B. Now, please, you have to consider. You know what externality is, right? We have talked about many times. So now you should give me some, arguments about negative externalities, and you have to give about positive externalities. Okay? How does it cause, negatively on third parties? How does it cause positively on third parties? Okay. Good. 1 minute. Okay, I think you're finished, right? So group A. So now bring us some arguments about negative externalities of climate change, greenhouse pollutants.
Okay. For example, let's say that we have a heavy industry and we're producing some kind of goods. So our we will produce harmful by this production we will produce some kind of harmful gases which can be caused to our nature, for example, to fish or some kind of animals, or to air pollution, something like that.
Okay, because of that heavy industry, which pollutes the environment, right? So those third parties will be affected, right? So those factories are producing, and those goods are consumed by other consumers, yes? But there are some other people living in the neighborhood who are not consuming and has nothing to do with this business. Okay, good. And at the same time, nature and marine life, if that dirty water is water is also polluted, it will also good. And what about the positive side? Does it have any positive side?
Yes, it can be beneficial for many business producers. For example, many people can decide to open their business because when it's hot, people want to eat ice cream. So people can start their own business from ice cream or cocktails. Besides that, in the hot weather, we want to just buy air conditioners or such kind of facilities so that many producers can produce more technologies and sell it in higher prices because people will buy it. And of course, in this situation, also agents can benefit because in hot weather, many people just want to go abroad and they can sell their products. This is also beneficial.
Okay, good, thank you. So, yeah, if you consider that, she mentioned about that cool drinks and ice creams. If the weather gets warmer and warmer and warmer, it's good for them. For example, producing the drinks and ice creams, usually they have very, very, less impact for pollution, especially air. Okay? Their contribution for those climate change is very small. Of course, everyone does it, okay, but theirs is small. But anyway, because this global warming, which is caused by some other industries, okay? So those industries like cool drinks and ice cream, they make good profit, okay? They are third party. Good. All right, thank you. All right, again, Kuznets curve. All right, we have talked about this one a lot. All right, now we will talk once again because it has relation with environment too. Okay, when the economy grows, environmental degradation or pollution level also will grow in the country. When the economy reaches a certain point, then it will start decreasing. Okay, this is the argument which you may have in your final exam as essay type question. Okay. So now, in horizontal line, we are considering income, okay? GNI, GDP, whatever. And in vertical, we are considering environment, environmental degradation, pollution level. So our argument is when we start growing, when economy starts growing, pollution will also, let's consider this pollution. The pollution level will also increase in the country. Okay? For example, in the initial point, where there wasn't any economic development, economy is not developed, which means they are not producing anything. If there is no production, it means there is no pollution, right? Of course, pollution is always there, but the level is very small, insignificant, okay? But once it started growing, then pollution will start growing. Let's consider the case of China, okay? You already know from our second lecture and seminars, okay, just 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, the absolute poverty level in China was higher than 80%, yes, 88%, absolute poverty, okay? And in those years, 40 years ago, okay, the environment, okay, climate in China was so nice, okay? Compared to, if you, for example, the air in Beijing was so much cleaner compared to today. That poverty level was very high. Okay, now ask yourself, which one is more important for Chinese government? To reduce absolute poverty level or to keep environment, okay, unchanged, clean? So for Chinese government, of course, this one is more important, right? If, you know, people are hungry, for them, doesn't matter how clean the air is. Okay? The first thing is they have to fill their stomachs. That's the most important. Okay? So when Chinese government, you know, started growing, and they know, okay, because they have lots of specialists, okay, they knew from the beginning that if they start growing so fast, they will be polluting the environment. They knew it, okay? So which means if we want to reduce it, then we have no choice, we have to sacrifice our environment, okay? Because this one is more important compared to this one for Chinese people, okay? Good? So Lord, maybe Chinese economy is somewhere here today. Alright, it did not reach this level yet. So now, when we say absolute poverty, you know that today, according to 2013 statistics, absolute poverty level was less than 2%, right? Does it mean that poverty level is so low in China? No. A person who lives, you know, below $3 a day, that person is also poor. Okay? In China, people who are living below $3 but higher than $1.9, there are so many. Still, poor people are so many, okay? Which means for China still, that, you know, that economic growth is more important. It's not only for people, but for nation itself. When economy grows, nation becomes stronger. You know, if you compare China today with 40 years ago, militarily now that China is superpower today. One reason, because they were sacrificing the environment. They were producing more, becoming stronger. Okay? So now, let's suppose, if Chinese economy, you know, keeps growing like this, okay, and poverty levels year by year it's reducing, and it reached this point. It reached this point. Where, on average, Chinese people income is very nice. Okay, like in most of the developing European countries. When economies are nice, then people will be thinking not about poverty, because poverty is not there, or it's very low, okay? Now they will think more about environment. So now let's breathe more fresh air. Okay? So then, at this point, it's one thing people will be more important environment as humans, okay? Second, because at this point, Chinese economy is so powerful and rich, okay? Which means at this point, they will be able to afford that eco-friendly technologies to be implemented. For example, today China is, you know, supplying all of that, you know, energy resources, electricity, using mostly coal-burning plants, which is one of the worst enemy of the environment. Okay, they are polluting a lot because it's the cheapest, you know, energy available. Okay, so when they reach this one, they will have money enough, and they will shut down this one. They will, you know, replace it with wind power or some other eco-friendly technologies, okay? It is only possible after this point. So if these things happen, slowly you'll see that environment starts getting, clean. Another argument. For example, China, it used to be only investment receiving country in the past. But today, it's not only receiving, but it's also sending. Right? Billions of dollars, China is investing to African countries and many other countries, okay? Which means they are investing and producing there. They are not producing at home. They are not producing, which means they are reducing pollution and production level at home, and they are outsourcing and producing there. Because country is rich. Most of the developed countries are going through that process, okay? Because they are outsourcing to China, they are polluting environment in China, at the same time they are making their air cleaner at home. Okay? So it is the argument that you can bring. Good. So what do you think countries like China, which is fast growing countries like China, okay, do you think they will follow this kind of changes in the past? So once maybe in the future, maybe after 20 years they will reach this point, then slowly that environmental degradation will decrease. Maybe yes, okay, because anyone wants to live in a better place, right? Okay. Good. So which group of countries are mostly affected by climate change? Developing or developed? Developing countries? Yes. Okay, so developing countries are more affected. Why?
Because developed countries use eco-friendly.
No, let's say today, okay? Everywhere, let's say the climate is the same. Okay? Same pollution level, let's suppose. Which countries are going to suffer more? Nation, people.
Developing. Because it's very difficult to keep both an economic development and also the environmental issues. While developed countries, their economy is already strong, so they make more investment into environment.
Okay. For example, during the lecture, I gave an example of hot summer in Europe. Yes. In 2003, the European countries, okay, some of them, they experienced one of the hottest summer in the history. Okay? So just in France itself, okay, in one night, more than 3,000 people died because of hot weather. Of course, mostly they were elderly people. Anyway, they are also, our grandparents, our grandparents, right? So they died, more than 3,000 people. I am very, very sure that the same hot weather, if one developing poor country experiences the same weather, okay, the number of fatalities or deaths would be 3, 4, 5 times more. The number was only 3,000 in France because that country is rich. Most of the households there, they already have, all of those, cooling, technologies. And they are, the medical services are very good. Even though they had so many opportunities, still the number was 3,000. Okay? But if it happened, let's say, in some developing, the number could be much more higher. Okay? So the answer is in terms of financial resources. Okay? When the air is not clean, it is developed country people are able to buy, rich people, those fresh air, which is sold. Okay? And which means that for medical treatment, if the rich people, they are more eligible, okay, to use those treatments. Okay? So it's developing countries. Good. So today we see that developing countries are paying the price mostly, right, of that one. Okay. And developed countries are seeing it. Yeah. What do you think? If developed countries, okay, just see the situation and do nothing. Okay, today developed countries they're active, right? They are trying to help to reduce those issues. Let's suppose they are doing nothing. Is it fine?
No. It will be long-term issue. And it will last long. The problem will last longer and longer.
It will last longer and longer. So for example, today we have lots of, that non-governmental organizations, right, and funds, okay, which the purpose is to reduce climate change issue, okay, and most of those funds, okay, are available because of developed countries' contribution. Okay. Do you think that, the developed countries are doing it because they really like those developing countries?
No, they have a certain aim also. Because if in developing countries the environmental changes the people who are in the countries who want to live here and will affect the developed countries also. That's why they help them.
Okay. So it is, that early warning strategy like, okay? Which means if developed countries don't try to help today and stop that problem, okay? In, let's say, those environmental issues cause a certain type of disease, right? Which it doesn't mean that it's going to be only in that country. It may travel. If it travels, it definitely may travel to those developed countries too. For example, the case of AIDS, yes, one person was affected, but today the number is millions. Okay? It was developed in Africa, but it's in entire world. So therefore, to prevent those kind of things, developed countries try to minimize those problems. Okay? Good. So now watch a video, okay? It's in Russian language, and those students who do not understand Russian, it has English subtitle. Okay? You can read from there. So this is President Putin's speech. Please listen carefully.
Я вас разочарую, но я не разделяю общих восторгов по поводу выступления Греты Тунберг. Вы знаете, то, что молодые люди, подростки, обращают внимание на острые проблемы сегодняшнего дня, в том числе на проблемы экологии, это правильно и это очень хорошо. Их, безусловно, нужно поддержать. Но когда детей и подростков кто-то использует в своих интересах, это достойно только осуждения. Никто Грете не объяснил, что современный мир сложен, многообразен, быстро развивается. И люди в Африке, либо во многих азиатских странах хотят жить на таком же уровне достатка, как и в Швеции. А как это сделать? Заставить их использовать сегодня энергию Солнца, которой в Африке достаточно? Кто-нибудь объяснил, что это стоит? Но на сегодняшний день это доступная технология для развивающихся экономик и развивающихся стран. Мало доступна. Но люди хотят там жить так же, как в Швеции, и их не остановить. Пойдите, объясните им, что они должны еще прозябать в нищете лет 20-30, и их дети будут в нищете. И объясните им. В целом, конечно, мы не можем не поддержать тех идей, которые связаны с развитием возобновляемых источников энергии. Надо только исходить из реалий.
Okay, I hope it was very clear for all of you, right? Okay. So this, I wrote some quotations from his speech, okay? So he's talking about, so how can it be done, right? By making them to use solar energy, which is plenty in Africa, yes? But is it accessible technology for those developing countries? Okay, hardly accessible, but people, they want to live like in Sweden, and nothing can stop them, right? So now the question was, what he was asked, okay, about the climate change issue, and they were referring, these ladies, okay, these girls, activities, okay? You know that Greta Thunberg, she is very famous young lady, okay? I think she's 16 years old today. So she is climate change activist, okay? Everyone also, okay, she used to give a lot of speeches in very, high-level meetings, okay, including those top presidents of the world. So anyway, now I would like to again, to pay attention to President Putin's speech, okay? He's saying, if younger generation, if they pay close attention to climate change issues, it's really good, right? And we have to support them. But at the same time, he's adding, but if some countries are using those younger generations for their own interests, then it's a big problem. What does he mean by saying?
To make money.
How can they make money because of this lady? Of course, if she gives speech, for that speech she is paid thousands of dollars, no doubt.
Maybe reservoir technologies, environment, can use the leader to establish their own technologies and to make profitable from. Maybe they can make cars speech that some technology is good to use from name of other company or something else, and they may implement this technology. So some companies may win from this.
Okay. And
Maybe like that. What the president means, like it's not good to show off them and encourage other countries of the world, saying like we should save the environment, we should solve the climate change, knowing that their situation is better compared to other parts of the world, and they should not see everyone at the same level. They should also take into consideration the poor African countries as well. So he's bringing the Africa as an example, saying like, just see, can that also people in Africa also want to live like in Sweden, but in order to reach that level, first they should sacrifice, and first they should also pollute the environment in such a level that Sweden has done already.
oh, good point. Good point. Okay. So today you know that all nations they are blaming China for pollution, right? Of course, they are polluting the environment. It's fact, okay? And at the same time, all of those developed countries who already developed, okay, they also have gone through the same process. They have been polluting the environment. The temperature is, it's, 1 degree higher or 2 degrees higher. It's not because of China, but because of most of the developed countries. It's their contribution too. Of course, now today they realize they try to reduce it. It's true, okay, it's a good thing, right? And now President Putin is giving the example of Africa, right? So now, okay, because developed countries, they are trying to reduce those emissions, okay? And they're encouraging all other countries to reduce it. Which means for poor countries reducing those emissions, it means stopping their economic growth. So therefore, now he's saying that how can they, change their, environment, polluting energy resources with, very expensive ones? It's impossible. Okay? And why he's saying that they're using that, younger generation for their interests? Okay? Now they are encouraging other nations to reduce that pollution level. Okay? And at the same time, I believe that what he meant. They're using those younger generations. Okay? They're also asking them, because of him. Maybe if you listen to her speech, it's very emotional. Okay? Usually he cries, half crying, half talking. Okay? So which means that now we have to stop those production. Okay? It doesn't matter what the level of economy is. Because of you, we are paying the price. It's true that the younger generation will pay the prices. But if they don't pollute the environment, okay, the people, they will be living in that poverty. Okay, in that poverty. All right, good. So now, after this one, I'll give you a break. So now, we have two types of cost-effective strategies, okay, to reduce climate change or pollution level. First one is emission charges. The second one is cap and trade. Regarding emission charges, it's very simple, okay, you know. If you want to drive a car in Uzbekistan, you have to pay certain amount of tax because you are driving and you are polluting the environment, right? We have that type of tax. Or companies, they pay the tax because they are polluting the environment. So in most of the developed countries, you know, strictly implemented, okay? For example, according to that, if you want to produce as much pollution, no problem, you produce, okay, but you have to pay. If you want to drive a sports car, which is very expensive, but at the same time it has a very strong engine, okay, with thousands of horsepower, which pollutes the environment a lot, so they have to pay a lot of tax. You know, in most of the developed countries, in many of them, if you drive a small car, they're very weak engine, okay, small engine, which means that it doesn't pollute much. Those, you know, some of the taxes, you know, you don't have to pay any tax, certain time. And if you are using, you know, that highways, which is, you know, you have to pay, you pay the half price. And once or twice a year, they will, you know, provide you with free bonus, you know, gasoline, okay? That way they try to encourage nations, the people to drive those eco-friendly cars. Okay? So regarding this one, how much you produce, you have to pay tax. Okay, good, it's clear. What about cap and trade? Some nations, okay, let's suppose, you know, the United States, they have been implementing, I believe they are still implementing it, okay? Let's say in the US there are many thousands of companies, factories, right, which produce, okay? So according to cap and trade, the nation, they follow certain limits. Let's say US, they decided to produce 100 units of pollution. I don't know the measure. Units of pollution, okay? So now, which means that including all of these companies, they will have, in 1 year, they are not allowed to produce more than this. For example, this company is giant company, American company, which is very important to the economy, and at the same time, it pollutes the environment. So now, US government gives 10 units of pollution production for them. It's allowed for you to produce only 10. Another one a bit smaller for them, 8. For another one, for example, 9, 5, 4. That way, overall is 100. So which means they are not allowed to produce more. Solar. I will, you know, make another, you know, give some arguments regarding that one too. Let's suppose the case. You know, for them it's allowed 10, right? But demand for their goods, you know, doubled. Let's say this year. What does it mean? If, you know, demand doubled, they have to produce twice more. And it means that the pollution, if they produce twice more, will double. Yes? Is it allowed for them to produce double? No. It is not allowed, right? So therefore, Lord, even what is worse, you know, one thing is that in the middle of the year, they reach that level. One thing, if they don't want to pollute more, they have to stop production. Will they stop? No. If they stop production, maybe it's okay for the air, okay? But you know, it will cause even bigger problem. Let's say if that demand comes from somewhere out of the country, let's say it is car manufacturing company, okay? And because of this, you know, restriction, they are not able to supply with those cars, right? It doesn't mean that they are losing it today. They will lose those customers maybe forever if they don't supply. Because if they are not able to find those cars today, they will replace the supply. Maybe they will start buying from Germany. Okay? Considering all of these facts, okay, American government made it very flexible. How? For us, what is important is this number. This one. For example, if they need more production, they may check. For example, here, because there is less demand, they are producing only 4, which means they have extra 4 available. Which means they can buy it from this company, extra 4. They will find extra, for example, 2 from this company. That way, they will reach that limit. At the end of the year, when they calculate it, they get 100 or less. Do you understand? So, in this picture is, for example, this company which is in overproduction, okay, of those smoke, where in this company it's available, so they buy those allowances from them. Okay. Why is it cost effective? Still, by limiting, keeping the environment at least unchanged, okay, or slower, they are still producing and making profit. What about the first case? Emission charges, which means those producers, they have to pay tax. Do producers like paying tax? No. They don't, right? Let's say there is one manufacturing company, they are polluting the environment, and as a result, for production, they are paying, for example, the price of the goods is $2 more expensive, right? Which company owners don't like to pay. The only thing, if they want to reduce, paying less, they have to reduce what? Pollution. Government is not asking them to reduce it, let's suppose, because they want to avoid this cost. They try to spend more on R&D, research and development. For example, as a result, they will be able to invent certain type of nice filters, which is able to clean the air. As a result, they will be paying less tax. Now we are going to do exercise 1, which is very important. Which is very important one. Okay, exercise 1. So which you may expect in your exam. Okay, there is a very high probability of having this type of questions in your exam. Okay, good. So now let's suppose we are considering tire market. Okay, tire in Uzbekistan. Let's say we are producing tires. In Angren, for example, we have that tire producing company, right? They are producing. So this is tire market. And this is demand, okay, for tires in Uzbekistan. And this is the supply of tires, that company that can supply this much tires based on this curve, okay? So from here you can see that the quantity of tires produced is 60 and the price is 30, equilibrium price. So now let's suppose that we are not trading with anyone, we are not buying any types of tires from outside. If it's the case, then it's going to be equilibrium price of $30 and the quantity is 60, okay? It's the case. Good? So now please let's read. Consider pollution externality case in Uzbekistan, okay, where the production of tires, okay, imposes a cost of $10 on a third party. Which means, so that factory in Angren, okay, because they use certain type of rubber, blah, 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 so they have to pollute the environment, right? So that factory in Angren is producing tires. Why are they producing it? In order to sell and make profit, yeah? And there are lots of Uzbek customers who are buying from them and they're using it for their cars. But there are some other people living in that neighborhood in Angren, okay, who has nothing to do with this business and with those tires. Because of that pollution caused by this company, those people are spending $10 more on average, let's say for health care, okay, or they are buying certain type of air cleaning machines, on average it costs them $10. Okay? So which means that before establishing this company in Ukraine, those people did not have that type of problem. Do you understand? So now there is such a thing that it's now negative externality. Alright? So look, thus the government decided to issue a $10 per unit sales tax on the output, which means now government knows that people, okay, are suffering from this pollution. To make justice, our government, they said, okay, dear producers, now you are producing, making profit, you still want to make profit? Okay, do it. You want to buy it? Do you like these tires? Okay, please buy it. But you have to pay some tax to the government, so government will deal with this issue. Do you understand? So they want to, using the tax, just protect these people from those issues. Alright, now, government decided to impose per unit tax. If they want to produce one more, it means they have to pay $10 extra. Okay? So which means if they want to produce 60, they have to pay $600 tax. Okay? Lord, what will happen to the curve if that tax is imposed? So it will shift to the left. So how about the price change? Each unit is becoming $10 more expensive. So it's going to be the curve for new supply curve, right? With tax. This one without tax, this one is with tax. Good. Here's the question. Calculate the total output before the legislation of pollution tax. In this first case, okay? Now, let's suppose Uzbek government did not impose that tax yet, okay? What was the total output in Uzbekistan? Let's say in Uzbekistan we produce only tires, okay? 60. So you know that total output is, it represents this shape, yeah? You already know, which means this triangle gives us surplus, and this one is production. Yeah? Good. So now you can easily calculate it, right? Number one. So we have to find the surface of this triangle, which represents producer surplus, because it's triangle 1/2 times 20 times quantity 60, which is equal to 600. And when the price is 30, 60 units of tires are sold, and the price is $30 total production, okay? So now, if we consider this one, now $30 the price, and the quantity is 60, it is equal to 1800. So total production is, total output is 2400. Okay? The whole legislation is this much in Uzbekistan. Good. Second, calculate the total output after the legislation of pollution tax. After. So which means, because those producers, okay, increasing the price of each unit by $10, now price is higher. If the price is higher, then demand will decrease, yeah? Because of that $10, higher price, Uzbek people reduce their tire consumption by 20 units, okay? Now they are consuming 20, buying 20 tires, all right? Okay. So now to find it, if you want to find the total output after legislation, right, we have to find the surface area of this shape, yeah? This shape. Where this triangle is now producer surplus, and this is the output, yeah? Good. So this part of the graph is very tricky, which you have to understand, okay? So what will be that this equilibrium price equal to? You may say it's 40, but it's not 40. Why it's not 40? Please understand, it's the most important part, okay? Look, when the price, now, because of that less demand, the price, the quantity produced is 40, right? This is the actual supply curve of this company, which means if they produce 40 units of tires, they are able to produce those tires for less price. Because at this time, if they want to produce 20 more, there is marginal cost, right? They have to hire more workers, and they have to rent more space. So now they are not hiring more, and there is no need of additional space. So now marginal cost reduced. Okay, as a result, now price is lower. Do you understand? So now let's suppose it is $28. So let's say you have this kind of question in the exam. Okay, you have already seen in your midterm exam, when you have given this table provided, we have nicely given all of those squares, right? Where numbers will be really visible. Okay, you will find it by yourself. That's okay. Good. So now this is the price, which means at this price, so now to find an equilibrium price, 28 plus 10, because now $10 tax, yeah? So now the equilibrium price is $38. Okay? Equilibrium price is $38. $38. Good? So now we are able to find total output. Okay? 2. Producer surplus 1/2 times 12. Yes, 12. Times quantity produced 40, which is equal to 240. Good. And now we have to find this rectangular shape, right? 38, the price, equilibrium price, times quantity produced 40, which is equal to 1520. Is it correct?
Yes.
The square is not up.
No, this is all. Okay? 38. So I will explain. So which means the total output is 1760. Right? So now it's after legislation, where there is pollution tax. Good. Next question. Find the total tax revenue generated by the government. When there is that tax legislation, you know that the total number of production is 40. It's very simple, right? Because they are producing 40 there is per unit tax, which means 40 multiplied by 10, which is 400. It is government revenue collected from each, paid for each tire production. Good? Okay. Good. Finding it very simple, but you must know where, the shape that it gives that 400 in this graph. So which part of this graph represents that government revenue? It represents this rectangular shape, yeah? From 28 to 38, so from here to 40. So this is the total government revenue in the graph. Okay, 10 times 40. Good. Knowing it is very important, because if you don't know, maybe you are able to find it, but if you don't know this shape, you will not be able to solve the next question. Okay? Find the shares of consumers and producers in the total tax revenue. Now, this tax revenue, right, of government, which means that consumers and producers are paying it to the government. Before tax, you know that before that legislation, what was the price of car? $30, yeah? Now, because of tax, price increased to $8, which means people are paying $8 more to buy the same cars. Which means, in case of consumers, okay, consumer share will represent this shape from 30 to 38 because they are paying $8 more. Which means 8 multiplied by 40, which is 320. And this part, okay, is paid by producer. You may ask why. Look, when they produce, the actual price was before $30, yeah? Because now, you know, there is less demand, they are able to produce for $28. Yes, for $28. But now, even though it's $28, they could sell more, as if they are selling still for, you know, it's $30, but now they are paying this amount to the government. Okay? So now this part is producers' share in the total government tax. Producer. Which means 2 times 40, which is 8. Total is 400. Okay? 400. Or another thing, you know, to make it, you know, easier to keep in mind, the part which is above equilibrium price is consumer's share. Below it is producer's share. Good. Next. Find the total loss in output for Uzbekistan after imposing pollution tax. It's very simple, right? To find that loss, you compare before legislation and after legislation. Total output, oh, it's 5, yeah? Total output after legislation, it is 1,760, yes? Before, it was 2,400, which means it will give us minus 640. So now this is the loss because of implementing pollution tax. Okay? Pollution tax. Which means government, nation is losing this much because we want to protect our environment. Because we want to protect our environment, we impose tax on pollution. So now goods are more expensive, we are producing less and making less revenue. Okay? Good. And this next one is very important question, okay? What kind of effect do the emission charges have on Uzbekistan's market competitiveness? Now we consider, you know, just one closed economy, right? Let's suppose here we are producing in Uzbekistan and at the same time we are exporting. Okay? Exporting. And before legislation, our Uzbek tires price was $30. And on the other hand, there were Chinese producing, you know, tires. Their price was also $30. Okay? So other countries, they were buying Uzbekistan's tires and Chinese tires, which means we had our market share, they had their own market share, because we had competitive price. But we know that now here government imposed tax, yes. Now price increased to $38. Are we able to compete with Chinese tires now? No, which means in a very short time we may lose entire market share. Do you understand? So this is one bad thing, it may affect badly on production and export capability. So it is one reason, for example, let's suppose Germany, okay? Let's suppose Germany. And they are producing cars, yeah? And the car price of their cars, for example, it costs $50,000, okay? And there is, one competitive, another type of Italian car, which is also $50,000, okay? Very nice, okay, very competitive. So people are buying from Germans and they are buying from Italians. So let's suppose because of that tax, now the price is $60 in Germany. Those cars, $60,000. So which means that in the long run, or even in the short run, they will lose all of their customers, okay? Because they will be buying Italian cars, because it's the same quality, let's suppose. In this case, German companies, to avoid that $10,000 tax per unit, okay, they will decide to outsource the companies. It's one reason. Wages are very, almost same as Germany, okay, and resources, what they have is almost same. There is almost no difference in the economy, let's suppose. But let's suppose in Germany they have that emission charges, which is tax, but in this country there is no tax. No tax. Even though that labor cost, everything is same, they may decide to invest to this country in order to avoid this $10 tax. From, emission, that pollution tax to not pollution tax nations. Do you understand? So if they do it, then they will be able to reduce the price again to $30 or $50,000 and compete with Italians. Do you understand? So it's one reason, that they have the effect negatively on economy. Actually, that pollution tax, it indeed, affects very negatively on production. But anyway, if we want to have cleaner environment, we have to sacrifice. And here we see that the sacrifice amount is $640. It can be $1 million. Okay? Good. And this is it. If you have questions, you can ask. If you don't, make skips. Okay? Good. So now, let's talk about Kyoto Protocol. Okay? If I am not mistaken, that Kyoto Protocol was signed in 1988. Okay? Oh, 1888. Or 1988, sorry. 1988 by 24 nations. Alright? 24 nations, 24 countries, they signed Kyoto Protocol. So what's the purpose of that protocol? Okay, those countries, they established that kind of membership between them, okay, in order to reduce pollution levels, to avoid that climate change problem, okay? So which is, they agreed to reduce, using certain type of chemicals which really pollutes the environment. They agreed to reduce it, okay? And that way they try to avoid certain pollution issues. Okay, 24 nations. Let's say Germany is one member, France is another member, Russia is another member, let's suppose, okay? Brazil, Estonia, and some other countries. So look, according to the emission trading, they have three type of emission trading mechanisms, okay, which you have to know. It's very important. First one is emission trading, cap and trade. Let's suppose Germany. So how do they control that emission? they, impose limits on each country. Let's say, among these 24 nations, they make a target like, we have to, we will produce this year in 2019, 100 units of pollution, let's suppose. Okay? This much pollution we are expecting to produce this year. Here, United States is a very strong economy, which they are very strong because they produce a lot. Okay? Which means, because this big economy, for you, let's say you are allowed to produce 10 units of pollution. Germany is another strong economy, for you 10 too. For France, a little, smaller economy, 9. Russia, 8. Brazil. Anyway, the total is 100. Okay? As I already explained earlier, let's suppose if for German goods there is higher demand, it means that Germans, they have to produce more. Let's suppose that to satisfy that demand, okay, they need to produce extra 2 more pollution units. Okay? So these member nations, they know that if there is need for more production, because it's important for those economies, they may be flexible. How? Let's say in this case Russia, because they have using only 6 units of their allowances, and they have 2 extra available, which means Germans can buy these 2 extra from Russia. So here, a few millions of dollars, please give us your allowances so we will use it. At the end of the year, that limit is followed. Okay, not more than this. Good. Alright, it's one. Second, joint implementation. It's the case like, Germany needs still 2, but all other members, okay, they are also, they are producing maximum. There is no extra available from any member. Okay? No. But Germans, they need this too. So now, because Germany, they have, very, high, updated technologies, okay? For example, there are some weak economies over here, whose, annual limit is 8, their maximum using, but they are producing 8 using all technologies, for example, which is not eco-friendly. In this case, Germans can invest to this member, replace, for example, their coal burning plants with some eco-friendly technologies, okay? As a result of this change, they will be able to reduce pollution level, because now they're using more eco-friendly technologies. Which means that now, let's say if it's Brazil, they have, because of using the German technology, they are reducing it. So maybe to 6. If they do it, so those Germans will be allowed to produce 2 more units of pollution. Okay? Good, it's in the second piece. Third, clean development mechanism. What about the third one? It's the case, everyone, every member, they're producing maximum, and at the same time, they're all, using the latest technologies. There is no way for Germans to reduce pollution level here. But they still need those 2 units, okay? In this case, it makes, it's flexible. If from member nations it's not available, then Germany is allowed, for example, they will find one non-member, one of African or Asian countries, okay? And using their technology, they will help to reduce pollution level in this country, in non-member. Then, if they reduce pollution level, so they will be allowed to produce 2 additional units of pollution. Okay? So this is the mechanism. Okay? This way, these countries, they try to follow this limit, which means if they keep, this limit, at least they are not making the situation worse. But because of this, mechanism, it usually every year reduces year by year. Okay, good. So look, what are some controversies of emission trading? These mechanisms, okay, are going to work perfectly if that, monitoring is adequate. All right, I'm also not, that environmentalist, but I believe, for example, if to find that air pollution, right? For example, if there is one company which, produces certain type of smoke, yes, it's easy to measure. So, for example, in 1 minute, how many, cubic meters, okay, that smoke takes in the case of area? In 1 hour, in 8 hours. Maybe that way they are trying to measure it, okay? So which means they have certain type of measures to find it, let's suppose, okay? And look, let's say US, it's 10 units, right? And let's suppose, there is certain type of electronic, measurement that shows it, how much is emitted, okay? And they are, following. And here there is one, let's say one very corrupt member country, let's suppose. And when those, those members, because they have experts, they are going to monitor and check. When they come, all of those, that measure tools are on its place, and it shows those numbers, okay? When they leave, those corrupt nations, corrupt, producers, they will turn it off. Is it possible? Let's suppose. They are turning it off, and which means that they are still emitting, but that numbers are not increasing. By the end of the year, for example, the limit is 5, but those numbers show they produce 2. Actually, they produce more than 5. They are doing it 5, because these 3 additional they may sell. Okay? So this kind of cases are not exceptional. Okay? So these kind of things may be also practiced, so therefore it's also not free of some controversy. Yeah.
You say you sort of agree with Europe of their kinds of they increase policy,
Non-members, yes.
They increase, and they get 2 more.
Yes.
But overall, the number will be more than 100.
It's 100 within the nation. Yeah, of course, that's true. Okay, it will be more, but still, in the world, okay, they are reducing it. Okay. So look, in this case, if they don't make it flexible for Germany, okay, if they don't allow it, so maybe Germany will say, this protocol is not beneficial for us. Sorry, we are out of this membership. They may do it, okay? So therefore, considering those facts, they will make this as flexible. Good. And we have some financial funds, okay, which are directed to reduce pollution level in the world. I believe you know why World Bank and IMF was established, right? After Bretton Woods, that meeting, they established that it's different topic that we are going to consider later in different levels. So the purpose of World Bank is to help countries to develop their economies, right? Development issue. But what about IMF? They were established if some countries are going through some financial difficulties, it's their responsibility to help them financially. Okay? Good? So now, because that environment is also considered to one of development processes, okay? World Bank established a prototype carbon fund, which means they will provide those financial resources if that project is, that the purpose or goal is to reduce pollution level, okay, to make environment more friendly. Let's suppose maybe it will be a good, future business plan for you. Let's suppose after graduating, you want to establish one business, and you are going to produce certain type of technologies. which is, by using that technology, people are able to clean the air, clean the water, which may reduce that pollution level significantly. Let's suppose if you apply for the government, to finance it, and the government is saying, we don't have that resources for you, we are sorry. But if you take that nice proposal and apply it to World Bank for that one, and you see that it has significant impact, I have no doubt they will provide you with that financial resources and you can start your business. Okay? It's the reason it was established. Second one, Global Environmental Facility, okay? It's also another fund, okay? They are giving grants to countries, so which, if they decide to reduce pollution level. Let's suppose we know that China is polluting the environment, yes? And mostly because of those, that coal burning plants that they have. What do you think if, those rich, strong nations, they, just coming to Chinese leader and telling to President Xi Jinping, okay, because of your plans, this kind of plans, the environment is getting, dirty and dirty, pollution level is rising. We want you to shut it down. What will be their response? Chinese side will say, yeah, what you are saying is really nice thing, but we are not able to do it. Because if we stop, our economy will go through difficulties, all right? They will not agree to do it. It's important. But, for example, regarding these funds, okay, they may come with a proposal. Okay, dear President Xi Jinping, okay, so the leader of China, we know that it's very important for your economy. What if we help you to build, for example, those, wind power plants, and we will provide you with financial resources, and you can return it after 40 years, let's say. Would you agree to shut it down? Most probably they will say yes. Because there is financial resources, they want to offer him to establish this very good thing. Okay? Their purpose is to just encourage, okay, other nations to reduce, and they want to support it. Okay? Good. And the last question, okay, why other countries are so reluctant to curb that climate change issue? In the world, you cannot find any country, there isn't any single country, okay, they want to fight against, that climate change issue fully. Of course, talking is always there, we have to do it, but in action, none, okay? Why do they do it? Because they have reasons for that. For example, first one is, country, they say, okay, let's go slow, wait and see. They have that type of, belief. The first issue is why, they are not implementing, because all of the costs should be, it should be covered by current generation. If you want to, reduce, pollution level and that gas emission, okay, it's we who have to pay. Do you want to pay? Would you be happy to pay all of those costs? You would say, our grandparents did, why should we pay it? Yes? Okay, we are ready to pay a little, but the rest should be paid by our children. Yeah, so people think that way. Another thing is, let's say, if one country, they, built this, coal burning plant in 1990, okay, which means it has useful life. Maybe it's useful for 50 years, yeah? And they are asking it to shut it down today, in 2020. So for this nation, it's better to wait up to, that 20 more years. When it's, unusable, they shut it down and replace it with wind power. It's another thing. Okay, now let's wait, yeah, we will do it, but after 20 years. Because we have to still use it. Another thing is, there is a belief that maybe in the future there will be, because we are spending a lot of R&D, research and development, maybe there will be some scientists, okay, who will be able to invent certain type of, technologies which are able to clean the air, clean the water, using very less financial resources. Okay? So which means, for example, you can buy one tool which costs $2,000. You take it, okay, and just insert it to our, Tashkent's, the Terevishka. And that $2,000 tool is able to clean the entire Tashkent's air. If you want to do the same type of cleaning today, you have to spend millions of dollars, okay? So we believe that maybe someone will do it. Let's wait.
Tesla, for example, yes?
Tesla is, they are using electric, okay, that one. But Tesla is very expensive car because why we are driving still, those, gasoline using, machines, because it's cheaper. Hybrid cars are very expensive. And when you buy hybrid cars today, if the price is $20,000, okay, it's not the actual price actually. Because they are selling it for $20,000 because they get a lot of subsidy from the government. Government provides subsidy and they're making it affordable because it's good for the nature. Okay? So now we are done with our lecture. Did you read that workshop material? Did you have a chance to read it? I know you were very stressful this week. You have to read next week the reading material. Okay? You have already witnessed that we will have this type of question in the exam. So it's very important. Each one is very easy. Okay? How that crisis and pollution impacted on the pollution effect in developed countries.